Hi, my name is Tatiana Florival, and I'm a 2023 Baxter Street Artist in Residence. I went to school for painting. I went to RISD and majored in painting, and I feel like my trajectory as an artist has been slowly coming off of the wall and then going back onto the wall. I worked in oil paint for a long time, and then I started to become interested in staging, theater, sets, things like that. And then that kind of naturally progressed into an interest in film, video, miniature, because I feel like at the heart of my practice is just storytelling. So I've been experimenting with a bunch of mediums that allow me to work with that. I worked on a few film sets, I worked a few jobs that had to do with video, and then ever since then I've kind of been infusing those interests of painting, sculpture, and video into one. Pegeron is an exhibition that starts with this conceit of I wanted to animate old family photographs. And so that's kind of where it started, and then through that process of working with photography, animation, sculpture, painting, it's really transformed, exploring family history, lineage, working with an archive, fantasy, reimagining, imagined retellings, fiction, the ways that my personal history and my family history intertwine with American history, and how that kind of fact and fiction can kind of combine. The idea for this show really was inspired by my relationship to my grandpa's photographs. He's been taking photos all of his life. He never really considered himself to be a photographer. He more considered himself to be a collector. So he would kind of collect these memories and moments and snapshots in photo albums, digital versions, things like that. What was initially interesting to me was that relationship between myself and my grandfather. But then as I kind of started getting deeper into analyzing the photos and creating these imagined stories based off of them, I started to think about the characters in these little universes. And having such a big family, sometimes you look at a family photo and you don't even know who it is. So I was interested in bringing in the family that was familiar to me, siblings, cousins, aunts. And through that collaboration, I was able to learn more about the material I was working with. It kind of gave me an opportunity to expand my practice and see different ways that collaborating with others can influence my film. So it was really fun. I feel like for a few months, every weekend, I was just at someone's house. We were recording voiceovers, or we were singing, or we were just telling stories. And the feedback I've gotten from my family members is that working on the projects was very therapeutic to them, and that the combination of fact and fiction created kind of like a safe space for us all to play and have fun while also interrogating these really difficult topics. I think about time a lot. It's the aspect that differentiates film from every other medium, having a timeline and having a series of images spread across time. It's also a storytelling device. You can speed up time, you can slow it down, you can use time to add tension, you can use time to build suspense. So I feel like it's something I really employ in my work and try to make it work for me. Time really also affected the show in the timing of my grandfather's passing. He passed this summer, right when I was in the middle of my residency, and so that timing really affected the way I did my research, I did my work. So filmmaking, inherently, I think you work with a lot of mediums. You have to write, you have to draw. In my case, I build miniatures, so I sculpt, paint, costumes, props. So I feel like I've always worked with a lot of mediums. I've just, for the past few years, only shown the world that final product of all the mediums coming together into a film. But with this show, I was really interested in the ways that I could tell stories with those different mediums I pick up along the way in the filmmaking process. So like thinking of a miniature as a kind of like a house for a story. So I think it's really useful to me to kind of work on everything at the same time. So I'm never just writing or just drawing. It's all like happening simultaneously. And then I grab onto one thing that piqued my interest, and then it kind of explodes from there. And then I make it its own piece, or I incorporate it into the larger film. So I think it's been nice working across a lot of mediums and having the opportunity to do that. Working with photographs is a little tricky because there's always fact behind them. No matter what your relationship to them is, there's always the truth behind the moment it was taken, there's the truth behind people's reactions to it. For instance, in one of my films, The Pegeron sisters, that's probably the most literal translation of the theme. I cut out these characters from these photographs, these character setting scenes, and animated them traditionally. And then opening night, as my family members were watching the film, a few people pinpointed a character in the film and they were like, that's so-and-so. And it was kind of an upsetting topic because they were portrayed in not the best light. And in my like fantasy, I was like, no, that's not them. This is this made up character I made. But like, you can't really refute that fact that like they're watching it. It's that person to them. In the studio, everything to me is fiction. I'm able to see the facts, but I'm also able to like imbue my own like fantasy narrative into it. And then when I put it out into the world, I kind of have to grapple with like the fact that comes from that. So I feel like it's kind of a tricky thing I'm still trying to figure out. I think whenever I make things, I want people to walk away with a sense of joy, a sense of whimsy. I would love to inspire curiosity in them to look at their own histories or look at the world around them with that same kind of imaginative lens. And I'd also like them to walk away knowing a little bit more about me and where I come from, because I feel like if we can do that in everyday life, it kind of expands our worldview, but also kind of like intertwining that with like our shared histories in this country, in this world, and who we are. The advice I would give to an artist just starting their career is to take yourself a little seriously. I know everyone always says, don't take yourself seriously. I feel like that can be useful advice. But for me, what was really helpful, especially as a filmmaker, was to treat my practice like a studio. So having a hard drive, organizing every single thing I make into those folders, meeting new people, just really taking time and care and concern into making your work, even if it's silly and you're making spaceships in your bedroom and like filming them against green screens. Like, no matter the content of your work, it is serious and like it does have a valuable contribution to society. For artists who are kind of more introverted like I am, definitely find ways to connect with people outside of your bubble. The Baxter Street residency has been amazing. I'm confident to say it's the best residency I've done so far. I had a lot of time, resources, space to work, and I feel like I really couldn't have done all of this work without the support of the residency, for sure. I think it's one of the best opportunities in New York City to make work, but also have it shown to the public afterwards. I feel like that's a really important step. And I think the lens-based aspect of the residency is so generous because I make films, I make paintings, I make sculptures, but that all falls under the umbrella. And so it really gives you those resources to expand your practice, experiment, try new things, and then show it to the world at the end. I'd like to thank Baxter Street. Everyone there, Jill, Sydney, Michelle, you guys are amazing. And it's really been a pleasure working with you all, so thank you.